In lesson 4, we're going to work on writing equations of linear functions. So a couple different ways we can do this depending on the information given to us. So the first one, part A, we have a very nice y-intercept, and we can always find our slope. So we are going to use y equals mx plus b for this one because we can find our y-intercept is 2, and our slope, we just have to find 2 points on the graph that are nice. So I find one in the top right hand corner. We go up 4 and over 3. So therefore we have a slope of 4/3. So when we write our equation, will be y equals, not 2x, will be y equals 4/3 x plus 2. So that's the easiest version. You can see in part B though, we run into a problem where our y-intercept is not an integer value. So we are going to use our point slope formula, which is y equals m parentheses x minus x1 plus y1. And the first thing we want to do is we want to write down our two coordinates. So if we look at the one in the top left, -1, -2, -3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're -3, 5. And our second point is 1, -1. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my slope. So we will be -1 minus 5 over 1 minus -3. We want to be very careful with our signs. -1 minus 5 is -6. 1 minus minus becomes plus over 4. And then that's going to simplify to -3 over 2. It's up to you which point you want to use for this. I'm going to choose to use the first one, the -3, 5. So we get y equals -3 over 2, open parentheses, that first x always stays, minus -3, and then plus 5. So we can make that look a little bit cleaner by doing x plus 3 and then plus 5. So that's one way to do it. There is another way to do it where once you find your slopes, you still have to do that. You take one of your points and we plug it into y equals mx plus b. So we would do 5 equals -3 over 2. Our x value in this case would be -3 and then plus b. So when we use this though, we're going to end up with some sort of decimal or fraction y-intercept. So 5 equals, if you put that in your calculator, you're going to get positive 9 over 2 plus b. You could also get 4.5, which is okay. You would then subtract your 9 over 2 from both sides, and you would get b to be equal to 1/2. So once we find our y-intercept, then we can use our y equals mx plus b, keep our slope, -3 over 2x, and then plus 1/2 or 0.5. So you can see it's a little bit sloppier with decimals and fractions, but the problem does still work. In number 2, we want to write the equation of a line passing through the point -213 and 2,3. We want to do it in y equals mx plus b form. So we're going to use our point slope equation, but we are then going to have to distribute and solve and put it into y equals form. So the first thing we have to do is find our slope. No matter which one we are using, that's always going to be our first step. So 3 minus 13 over 2 minus -2. We end up with -10 over minus minus becomes plus. So we get 4, and that simplifies to -5 over 2. I'm going to choose to use the point 2,3 because it has no negatives in it. So y equals -5 over 2, open parentheses, x minus 2, and then plus 3. So normally you'd be okay leaving it there, but because it says y equals mx plus b, we have to distribute. Y equals -5 over 2x. -5 over 2 times -2 gives you a positive 5, and then plus 3. We're going to combine those two together to give us -5 over 2x, and then plus 8. So that's how you would do it through point slope. After you find your slope, you could pick one of your points and do it through y equals mx plus b and solve for b. So you get 3 equals -5 over 2 times 2 plus b. we end up with 3 equals -5 plus b. We add our 5 to both sides, and we get that b is 8. So then when we rewrite our equation, we end up with -5 over 2x plus 8, and hopefully we got the same thing. The third one, we're going to cross out because it doesn't actually work. And then we go to the fourth one. When asked to write an equation of a line passing through the points -1, 3, and 2, 9, Jenna gave an answer of y minus 3 equals 2x plus 1. When Ben gave the answer y equals 2x plus 5. Are both students correct? So we can clearly see that Ben's answer is nicely in y equals mx plus b form, and you could plug in both of your answers just to make sure that they work, but if you put that into the calculator, you will see that they are indeed equations for that line. But this is the one that we want to take a look at. We want to take that and put it into y equals form. So we'll start by distributing. You get y minus 3 equals 2x plus 2. We will add the 3 to both sides. We get y equals 2x plus 5. So this was a point slope equation, but when we distribute, you can see it's exactly the same as Ben's. So we know they came up with the same exact equation, and like I said before, we're just going to quickly verify that both of those points work. So you get -2 plus 5, you get 3 equals 3. So that point checks out. And then 9 equals 2 times 2 plus 5. Let me rework that a little bit so it's got more space. 9 equals 2 times 2 plus 5. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 5, and that gives us 9 equals 9. So we know that Ben's was definitely an equation that works. When we rearrange Jenna's, we found out that both of them work, and therefore it is true that yes, both students are correct.